Hey YouTube, Hugmeister's Garage and Workshop. Doing an overview of the controls I changed on my Portage in Maine EGR 250. I love this stove. It's very efficient. The heat exchangers work great. But I had the original controller went out on it, and I'm sure the folks at Portage in Maine would have sent me a new one, but I just decided, being the tinkerer I am, I retrofitted it with some stuff that I could keep some parts handy on the shelf. So I'm going to give you a little rundown on this, and then I'll show you what we did inside for the controls too. But what we did is we took the old indicator out that was here, and still put in some running lights so I can see from the inside. You know, I can just look out the window and it'll tell me if the thing's calling for heat. Took out the original stuff that was in here. Kept the speed drive, which is actually, that's a nice little unit, but I did cut in another vent on the outside and the inside, because I always had concerns that speed drive was in a really hot environment. They always told me it was rated for it, but ventilation never hurts on these electronics. But what we did, basically, it's not that big of a deal. You just got to have the when it calls for fire, you got to have the dampers open. And before, they were like a throttled proportional damper, I guess. It was like a barbecue pit controller from what I could tell, the old control, but it was giving me fits. Once it finally went, it went. Like I say, Portage in Maine probably would have sent me a new one, but I just had to do it this way. Say we got our recirc pump in here. Had to put a little bit bigger. I put an MBF 25 bronze that drives the water down to my garage a little better, but everything else has worked really nice on this. Motor I had rewound once. You know, it's just, folks, if you get one of these, any of these outdoor boilers, I just think that you got to be prepared, especially the electronics. They go on them, but I mean, they're really not that hard to work on. But I put another one of these Ranco switches in. You can see my garage video, and what I used to have in here was a snap switch on the outside of the boiler jacket for low water cutoff. But this one I put another dual stage in, so when it drops below 120 degrees, it'll shut the fans off, so it's not running all day if it runs out of wood. But the snap switch, you used to have to wait for it to cool down or get above a certain level for it to turn back on. But now I can just readjust my settings here, and I can go to work and just reset it when I get back. And of course, the high side is the one that tells it it's calling for fire, and that'll turn everything else on. But I'll give you a real quick shot of it firing up here. Say that Ranco's coming on, and I got it set for 180, and it's 175 now, so it just went to 176. But once that goes to 180, that'll shut the whole process down. There's your RPM setting. So there's your fan, and dampers will slowly start to open. And that's about it out here. I'll show you the front. This stove needs a good cleaning. But I also put a new switch up in the door, so whenever you open the door, that fan will come on. So it'll suck, you won't get blasted in the face with the smoke when you open the door. But that's about it out here. Needs a good cleaning, but I'll show you the inside. Okay, we'll give you a brief overview of how the controls work in that boiler out there. It's just a diagram I keep, so I remember what I did out there. But basically, you got your power switch out there. And then that enables the 120 to go to through the high limit. If that goes over 190 degrees, that cuts power to all the controls in the boiler. And then you got to wait 40 degrees for it to cool down, and that'll reset itself. Your 120 comes down, and it activates that Ranco 2-stage switch, and that's just the power supply to it. It also enables power to the VFD drive. Doesn't turn it on, just enables power to it. And there's your 3-phase that goes out to your motor. And here's your 120 coming into the high set of contacts, the stage 2 on that Ranco switch. That side is 120 volt switched. So when that comes on, that'll turn on your rib run relay, and it also energizes your transformer, 120 24 volt, and that's used to send power to the 24 volt dampers. And it also runs those 3 pilot lights on the outside of the cabinet, so I can see what if it's running. I can just look out the kitchen window and tell if it's running. Plus, it'll send 24 volts into the house to the pilot light. Here is your VFD drive terminals, control terminals, and you got a parallel set that goes to the front door switch. So whenever you open the front door, it'll energize the fan and eject the smoke. And then you got the lower circuit, and whenever the water drops below 120 degrees, that'll open these contacts. So if it runs out of wood, I come home and the thing is not running all day. It'll just, the dampers will stay open, but at least it'll shut the fan off. And here is your run contacts off your rib relay. So when those are energized, like I say, these are, I should have drew these normally closed, because usually it's got to be 120 or above to stay on. But when this closes, that completes the run circuit also, and it'll run until the stage is satisfied, till it reaches 100, the set point, which is 180 degrees, and then it'll shut it down. All right, we're inside in the living room, and I'll show you what we got in here. I've got my remote temperature sensor from downstairs. That shows you, you know, what your water temp is, so you always can just glance over here and look. That's our pellet stove thermostat. That's our backup heat in the basement. And this is our new Honeywell Wi-Fi thermostat. And I put in a whole bunch of these. So now I don't have to change batteries anymore. They're all powered off the new Taco controller I can show you downstairs. And say it's all powered by 24 volts. The red light lets me know that the boiler is calling for fire, because there's an auxiliary set of contacts on that speed drive, and it just makes those, and it puts 24 volts to this light. The lower light is a green light, and that lets me know that the garage heat is on. So if I come in here and I see that green light's on, not over there, I'll know it's either below 40 degrees or I forgot to set the thermostat back. But it's pretty handy when you're sitting in the living room here. You just glance over and see what your system's doing. Next, we'll go downstairs. Okay, we're downstairs now. This is where the water comes in from the boiler. There's our boiler outside. Comes in here. There's our temperature sender that sends up to the living room. And there's one of those wireless meat thermometers I put on there. That's Wi-Fi too, with the probes. So I can remotely get what my high and low water temp is, my supply and return temp. And I can just punch that up on my phone wherever I'm at, and it'll let me know if the fire went out, or, you know, something's going on at home and I got to address it. But the probes just go in these old test ports. The return one, I just taped it under the insulation right there. But that works good. And this is what we put the new Taco controller in. Pulled some wire. This has, there's a set of wires to each valve and each thermostat. So I believe I've got 6 thermostats in this house now, because this is a zone baseboard system. But this is, it neatens the wiring up nice. Plus it lets me control the end switches, and it lets it activate that normally open valve on the end of the loop I'll show you. Because like I said before in my other videos, you need to keep the circulator running on these wood boilers. You can't, you know, let it come on and off like a, you know, a regular house boiler. But I'll show you how I did that, and it works nice. So we'll head over to the other room. See, there's our backup heat. the old P68. Our heat runs through this room right here, comes through here into another manifold, hits a couple more zones, then it goes up and into the next room. And actually this house was laid out perfect because this is all like maintenance rooms down here, or laundry rooms, so you know, anything you need to get to is pretty easy to get to it. This is where our piping comes in, goes down here and splits, and like I said, this is where the loop bypass is. So with that Taco controller, if any of these valves open, including the garage, any of these call for heat, it'll shut this normally open valve. So that way I've got a continuous loop in here, and at least lets my boiler circulate the water. If I get a call from the garage, same thing, that'll close because there's a pair of wires that go to the end switch circuit in that Taco controller. So if I'm down at the garage and nobody's, you know, calling for heat up here, it actually puts the full flow down to the garage and it heats it up a lot quicker. But that works really good. Like I say, and if I lose power, that'll normally open, so I'll have a natural flow going in and out of that boiler, so the boiler won't overheat just by gravity flow. But that's about it. She works good. Have a good day, folks.